We're diving deeper on infrastructure development, particularly in rural communities. Now, earlier this month, particularly in September, my apologies, from the 16th to the 29th, 27 officials from 9 developing countries attended a seminar in Beijing on rural infrastructure and poverty reduction. Hosted by China's Ministry of Commerce, the program shared how inclusive infrastructure can support rural development. A Namibian official then joined peers from countries like South Africa and Uganda to learn from China's experience in global best practices. To shed more light on this matter and her experience in China, we'll now be speaking to governance strategist and poverty reduction enthusiast Garere Nauses, who will be sharing her reflections from the experience and the lessons she learned and how she plans to apply them to Namibia. Good morning, Ms. Nauses. How are you?
I'm good, and yourself? Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Oh, no, thank you for taking the time to join us this morning. Now, let's get right into it. If you don't mind, could you then let us in on your background and really what inspired you to take part in this international seminar on poverty and infrastructure development?
Thank you for the question. I come from a very small town known Usakos, where there are a lot of indifferences when it comes to poverty initiatives. So being actively involved at grassroots levels, whereas I'm the council support officer at Usakos Town Council, as well as the chairperson for Usakos Youth Forum, as well as the founder, it came to my understanding that there is really a limit to initiatives that can then help the community in Usakos. Hence why this international initiative brought a closer understanding to us how we can assist our community and solve problems.
Well, you wear many hats in your community, clearly. So could you just let us in on how this trip, this expedition to China has reshaped your outlook on rural development here in Namibia?
I mean, when we think about poverty, we think about money. People don't have money. People don't have jobs. But I feel like it's more than just money and giving, food relief initiatives or programs. It's about empowering our community. So it brought a closer understanding, or let me say a broader understanding of how we can actually empower the Namibian nation to produce for themselves, to sustain themselves, and to ensure that there's a sustainable means of governance within Namibia. So it taught me how we can empower and not just give. So that's what I actually have learned from my visit in China.
And you've firsthand from your visit, you've seen how China's best practices in regards to inclusive infrastructure has lifted millions out of poverty. And you mentioned that it's not just about giving money or food support, but really, really getting to the core of empowerment. How do you think Namibia can apply similar principles to empower Namibians that are in rural communities to make its infrastructure more inclusive?
First of all, I would like to allude our President, Her Excellency Dr. Netumbo Nandi-Ndaitwah, for her various initiatives such as SWAPO Implementation Action Plan, which consists of various pillars such as youth empowerment, sports, inclusivity in good health care, as well as more focus on the creative industry. So she has really established various platforms, or let me say policies, that can really help with poverty in Namibia. So not just focusing on that, we have to establish more of people-centric governance. We need to come back to the drawing board and be like, is this really meant to solve societal problems in Namibia? Is this really meant to solve poverty in Namibia? So for instance, in China, what they have done is elder people, mind you, elder people are actually working in China. So they'll be given a rural area. A rural area is like Windhoek to Namibia. Imagine a rural area. So elder people will be working there. They're going to produce their own foods. Tea is being produced there. So the government has actually established a platform where the citizens are empowered and then they can work for themselves. So we should start with establishing more of people-centric initiatives to ensure that people do know where this money comes from, how this money should be utilized, and not just be like, oh, money is done. So more of people-centric policies. Also ensure sound and effective evaluation and monitoring processes, because as I've alluded earlier, we have a lot of frameworks such as the Vision 2030, which consists of NTB6. But then do we have sound and effective policy frameworks to monitor all of this and to evaluate them? And to top that, China also they have more of short-term policies. short-term frameworks, so that's attainable like in a short period of time. So we can also focus on having more of like short, attainable, reachable goals, and then actually, monitor them, evaluate them, and see if they're really executed.
You touched a little bit there on policies and different frameworks. You spent 16 days in China visiting different field sites and really seeing how these policies translate from document or from paper to real impact on the ground. Which field visit left the strongest impression on you, and why is that?
I would say all of them, because surprisingly we went to quite a lot of field visits, but the one that caught my eye is the like living museum, the working museum. So in China, as I said earlier, it's not like a normal like village that we do have in Namibia. It's like a whole huge capital city. So they will have like a land or village that produces tea, that produces maize, that produces rice. So the one that really stood out to me was where I went to a village, a very popular historic village. It was more of like a museum. The moment we stepped in, it was like, oh, for instance, in Namibia, it was like a maize production, craft, like, artistic items that represents how rice is made or how maize is made or how tea is made. So that also gave like, a platform or opportunity for the locals to actually harvest from such like moving initiatives.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's one thing that really triggered me, or let me say caught my attention.
Now, you are very, very active in your community and you've clearly, learned a lot and really expanded your knowledge base from your recent expedition to China.
Yes, yes.
Could you tell us in short how you plan to take these lessons and really engage local communities and partners to bring forth and implement the lessons that you've learned from your trip?
Good question. Currently, I'm actually involved in the local governance as a council support officer. So on a daily basis, I'm really involved with the community. But what I would expand more or work more on is creating like a co-creation platform where I get to work more closer with the traditional leadership, where I get to work more closer with the youth, where I get to work more closer with, the church leaders. Because poverty isn't just like one person problem, it's our problem. And as our president, our founding father, Sam Namba, stated that Namibia is a God-given nation to us. It is our sole responsibility to ensure that we take care of the needs and the desires of our community. So establish more people-centric initiatives, host forums, like train or teach or let me say empower the community how to look after themselves. So.
Thank you so much for your time this morning, Ms. Nauses, and I wish you the best of luck in implementing all of these brilliant ideas that you've put forth, as well as the lessons that you've learned.
Thank you for having me.